Welcome, friends and family, to another episode of the Backdoor Cut Show. You can find our podcast on anywhere you find your podcasts by searching Backdoor Cut Show. Also listen to us on Nothing But Net's Dash Radio's Nothing But Net channel. Sorry, I'm still thinking about that Luka game. That was just pretty phenomenal. Had me glued to the TV all afternoon. That was a good pick-me-up after a disappointing Celtics 76ers series. But thanks for tuning in with us. I'm Zach. With me today I have Sam, Mason, and Rich. Rich, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. Like you said, that was one of the best NBA games I've seen in a long time. There's been some high-level play in the bubble for sure. But Luka Doncic, man, what can you say? He's different. But I'm doing well for sure. Happy birthday, Kobe Bryant. Let's get it.
Mace, what's up? What's good?
Man, just devoured a carne asada burrito wet with red sauce, and been playing some PGA 2K21. Enjoying my weekend. What's up, Sam?
I was at the lake this weekend, man, and down at Beaver Lake in Mississippi. And I'll tell you that trying to pick up wakeboarding and surfing and all that shit at the age of 31, after having not grown up on the lake, is extremely difficult, especially because I didn't like skateboard or anything. So that's tough and a big kick to the pride, but it's exciting when you're able to get up. I was on the lake with a bunch of my fiance's family, and then one of her uncles had this buddy that does barefoot skiing. And so all these dudes rolled up from Grenada, Mississippi, on their barefoot skiing boat, and they started barefoot skiing, which is insane. Like you hang off the boom on the side of the boat and go at like 45 miles an hour and ski literally on your bare feet. And then you could like hang from it and like ski on your ass and like flip around and do all these crazy tricks and whatnot. But while I was on this boat, like all these dudes are wearing Trump hats. And so like, you get it, we're in rural Mississippi and all these dudes are, red-blooded Americans, they think. One of the dudes was wearing like a Nike armband, cause he had, some sort of shit like, elbow injury. And I was like, oh, nice armband or something. I didn't say that. I commented on his armband, like you're sponsored by Nike or something. And he was like, don't even get me started on Nike. And I was like, oh shit, I made a critical error. Like I've tried to not bring up politics at all this entire time on this boat, but here we are. And the other guy, like on the boat that was driving, goes like, yeah, I'm not watching any sports now because those players kneeling during the anthem. And he's like, the flag doesn't have anything to do with politics. And right after that, I sat there for about 3 seconds and I said, so whose boat is this? And just completely changed the subject and went from there. But, in certain parts of the country you go to and you're reminded like, oh, yeah, it makes sense. What happened in 2016 happened in 2016. And let's hope that what happens in 2020 isn't what happened in 2016. But I digress. Fun time on the lake. Got to catch a lot of basketball this week. And, dude, wall-to-wall basketball, like straight up March Madness, 4 games a day. They're all like exciting and good. You can't beat it, man. Zach, what's going to go on with you?
And trying to catch as many games as possible. Had some friends in town this weekend, so got to see them. That was a good time. Hanging out with my kid, showing him how much fun basketball can be, and really just keeping up with Luka, trying to keep up with the Mavs right now, trying to attach myself to another team so I can be emotionally destroyed down the line at some point this season, again and again and again. That's kind of what I'm searching for. Searching
the Mavs
for love
that team?
in a heartless place.
Yeah.
I don't know. They've had a lot of the primetime games that I've been able to see. Really enjoying Utah right now, especially after Mike. Congrats on having another kid. He comes back in the bubble. My theory for why he was he 7 of 8 from 3, 27 points, something like that, is that he had a newborn. He probably didn't sleep any when he was outside the bubble. Came back in the bubble, got a couple good nights rest, and he was just ready to go after that. He was rejuvenated, ready to hoop. He got a little turbo boost there. So that's my Mike Conley theory for why he played so well the other day. But those are 2 of the teams I've been keeping an eye on. And then Celtics been a lot of fun. They kind of took it to the 76ers, but that wasn't really like a fair shake of what they're capable of, I don't think. So that was kind of a dud of a series, but we'll see going forward what happens.
Let's talk Mavs. Mason, what are your thoughts about that Mavs game? Luka Doncic, like 46, 16, and 13, game-winning 3. on a ankle that we know is injured. I don't know if anyone saw in the game before Game 3. He rolled it pretty bad, went out of the game. They taped him up. He came back in limping visibly. They iced it down. He has less than 48 hours to get ready for an afternoon tip. Then he goes out and does that. What do you think of that? What do you think of that Mavs team? What do you think of that series?
Yeah, I mean, Luka has just put the team on his back today. No Porzingis. I guess he has some knee issues, so he set out Game 4. And honestly, it's kind of funny just to look at the contrast between Luka and Porzingis. It makes me think that duo is really not going to work out that long because one seems to be a huge pussy and one seems to be a warrior. What Luka did today was incredible. I don't even want to talk about Porzingis. Like, it's the playoffs. Got, as Shaq would say, put some icy hot on it, man up.
Get a cortisone shot, man.
Yeah. I mean, they are, I guess, thinking about the future with him, but it's always something. Luka, on the other hand, played through the pain, put the team on his back. And honestly, like the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter and then all of overtime, it was all Luka. Almost to the detriment of the Mavs' free-flowing offense. They really got stagnant, and it was Luka just going one-on-one and making tough shot after tough shot, Euro stepping in the lane, fading away, just doing things that no one could have expected he would be doing at such a high level. I think he hit 3 step-back threes, including the game winner, kind of those last couple possessions in the fourth quarter and overtime. I mean, what he's doing is incredible, and it's against the supposed best defensive team in the NBA who's got wing defender after wing defender, but somehow those defenders being Kawhi, Paul George, whichever Morris twin they have, et cetera, don't have the pride to fight through screens, and instead Luka's getting switches onto Reggie Jackson and Lou Williams every time and just abusing those guys when he does. There were a couple possessions Kawhi D'd up, and got stops on Luka, and you could see how, the claw that we remember. But on the very last possession of overtime, Luka is going to the top to get the ball off a little fake down screen pretty much, and Kawhi just sends Reggie Jackson out there on the switch to go get cooked instead of manning up and playing defense. If that was LeBron, the internet would have exploded saying he ran from that challenge. Kawhi ran from that challenge, and it really hurt my heart because I became a big Kawhi fan, and to see him not step up and just want to shut Luka down in the biggest moments, that's tough, man. Clippers fans out here, even before they won Game 3, said that their team is done. I believe them. That Clippers team has no cohesion. Paul George is
invisible.
I hate to say this word twice in one show, but he's a pussy as well. And it's karma for him just really being a pretty shitty dude in general. Rich, your thoughts on the Mavs Clippers series?
Yeah, man. I think you hit the nail on the head with a lot of your analysis. But yeah, it was great to see. Like, I love to see Luka taking over, and I love to see anytime the Clippers can fail. I think there's been so much hype and so much smoke that's been talked about the Clippers, and I think the main thing, like you touched on, is just the perimeter defense that supposedly, all time. Like, I've saw things at the beginning of the year comparing Kawhi and PG to Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. Like, don't ever say that shit again. Luka is just carving these boys up, man, and it's just beautiful to watch. Honestly, I enjoy watching the Mavs play. As we know, like the free flowing offense. They have a lot of offensive just shot creators and shot makers, honestly. Seth Curry has shown me a lot in this series. Tim Hardaway Jr. is very streaky, hot or cold. He's either going to shoot you out of the game or shoot you in, but he hits some timely shots as well. And shout out to Trey Burke as well, who they got off the bargain bin buyout market in July, and he's just coming through a bucket. Like, he can get his own shot. He can get to the cup. So happy to see him making a renaissance. I share the exact same sentiments in regards to Porzingis. Like, even on the bench, like, he didn't even look excited or happy or jovial supporting his team. He was just literally sitting there stoic and, right knee soreness. All right, bro. But shout out to Luka, man. That's his team. Rick Carlisle has already said that's his team. So, he went to war for his guys, man, on this bum ankle. He put them over the top. I'm here for all the PG slander. I'm here for everything about that. I still have images of him at Russell Westbrook's re-signing party when PG re-signed with the cigar and the smoke, like just all bullshit, like just fucking bullshit. He ran from OKC. I can't believe that Kawhi looked at LeBron and AD and said, "Hell no, I want PG to be my rival." that's who I want. Like, that's not working out for him. So it's fucking bullshit, man. What do you think, son?
What do you think, Sam?
Well, Paul
I don't know.
Great.
I don't have anything in addition to that. The PG thing about him dating Doc Rivers' daughter, Callie Rivers, and then impregnating a stripper, and now playing for Doc Rivers, but then also the Seth Curry and him storyline is fantastic. I mean, these teams do not like each other. I think that was documented in Game 3, and it's kind of become. It was like pretty modest this game. I feel like it wasn't quite as chippy as Game 3, but we saw a lot of words exchanged, and Luka's not backing down. And like he, for whatever stereotypes people have of European players, he like does not have any of those at all. I mean, he like Mason pointed out, you kind of think of Porzingis as the guy that's how you think of a Euro, someone that's going to like sore knee, sit it out, like kind of a finesse player, but Luka's willing to do whatever to make a team win. And like he's showing everyone what he is this series. 21 years old. You can't speak enough hyperbole about him. I mean, are the Clippers in trouble? I'm rooting for the Clippers in this series because I want to see the Lakers Clippers matchup. I just want to see that. I think that'd be really good theater. And I understand if the Mavs made it there, that'd be also good. I just don't think the Mavs can win versus the Lakers. And shit, maybe this version of the Clippers can't either. But I still like I'm holding out, thinking the Clippers could put it together, but not with Paul George playing like this, and not with Kawhi kind of looking a little bit. You could tell. I think he's like, what the hell, Paul? And like, you're really fucking up and not helping me out. Like his body language he's said all the right things, but it's hard when your guys letting you down like that. And not only that, when you're looking over in the East and your former team just swept and is looking like the best team in the league right now. You left the coach of the year, this offense that hums like a machine that doesn't require you to do everything. And just plays really solid, good, smart basketball, which is what Kawhi's really about. He's just about like going in, playing basketball, and then going to his family or whatever he likes to do in his personal time. But I think he made a huge mistake. I mean, I know it's revisionist history, but why leave that team? That doesn't make sense to me.
Zach, what's your thoughts on the Mavs Clips? You trying to get your shot right?
Yeah. Trying to get a Michael Bay shot. Can you hear us?
Keep going.
Okay. I guess you can't hear us. But yeah, I mean, the Mavs, like y'all mentioned, Trey Burke off the scrap heap, and he's like averaging 20 points a game. Yeah. And then
from Michigan, former Wolverine that took him to the national championship game, and one of the classic, because of tournament performance, high pick, lottery pick, just never really found his home. But Seth Curry, same story,
got in the league from the G League, got a 10-day, and then a few years later, after a couple chances when things didn't really work out, but he got better and better as a player, and now he's got, I think he signed like a $15-20 million deal, I want to say. Maybe that's a little high, but he got paid, and he's found a team where his offensive abilities seem to fit really well. Zach, you back with us?
Yeah.
All right, we just want to get your quick thoughts on Mavs Clips before we move on.
No, I think that what Luka's doing is stuff that you don't see very often. Like we've been talking about in his second season, he's already doing incredible things. And he literally is like carrying such a burden for this team, especially with Porzingis out, who's supposed to be his 1B, and carry some of this offensive load. So Luka took 31 shots. Which led everyone. The next closest person in the game was Kawhi Leonard, only took 22. Lou Williams only took 20. So Luka's just taking so many shots. Everything is going through him. It's not even like it's so telegraphed. He gets the ball at the top of the key. Everyone else spreads out. He's going to either try to drive or he's just going to shoot it from wherever he needs to shoot it to get a shot off from 3-point range. And it's really just fascinating. And every time you think, well, I mean, he's already starting pretty far back. He's not going to be able to hit a step back from here. Surely. Don't call him Shirley because he's going to nail that three right over the defender.
Okay, Mark Jackson. Oh, but Sam, to answer your question about are the Clippers done, man, unless Kawhi just takes over these next few games, I really think they are.
Well, he has been. I mean, he's been playing well. Like, it's not on Kawhi at all. Like he took over initially that overtime. Like he was going down, getting to his spots, hitting those dart short range, mid range jumpers, and just he stopped Luka, like you alluded to at the end of regulation, and beat him up. And I was like, all right, it's Kawhi time. But man, and then Paul George had to drive to the cup. I thought he might get going, but they just fizzled out like nothing I've ever seen before. And they just didn't have. I mean, I expected Kawhi to do what Luka ended up doing.
Exactly.
It didn't happen, and Luka's already doing this at 21. I mean, it's fucking insane. Like
Kawhi has to be the best player on the court if they want to win. And he hasn't. He might have been that one game so far. The Clippers are lucky as hell Porzingis got tossed in game one because they might be down 3-1 right now.
The Clippers' final possession in regulation today was terrible too.
Yep, that's
a Doc Rivers special.
So
I think he's a horrendously overrated coach.
I mean, that's on Kawhi. That's give Kawhi the ball and your best player goes to make a play, and instead of getting to his spot at the elbow where he's like 100%, it seems like he never misses. He settled for the step back to the right-handed dribble, and brick the three. It's a fine look. I'm sure he can make that shot. And I'm sure he works on it, but that's Kawhi Leonard. Your spots, get to your spot. And then we saw it in overtime. He got to his spot, and Maxi Kleber helped for whatever reason when Clippers were down 2 and allowed Kawhi to pass out to the Morris twin who knocked down the corner 3. That's a basketball pet peeve. You're down 2. A 2 doesn't hurt you. Don't give up the wide open 3, even if it is to is that Marcus Morris? I have no fucking idea.
Marcus.
Yeah, Marcus. Markeith is the one that's not as good, right?
Yeah, Marcus is supposed to be the better one.
They're both overrated. They're average NBA players.
Speaking of commentating, I think you mentioned Mark Jackson earlier. This bubble experience has been kind of enlightening with respect to the commentators and what we feel about them, or at least in my case, we have these guys and women that are calling these games. And they rotate through, so you'll hear one for each team. It seems like Chris Webber is on one of the calls, Reggie is on one of the calls, Doris Burke is on one of the calls, and Stan Van Gundy is on one of the calls, along with the stereotypical white guy with a good voice that calls the actual plays of the game, doesn't do the color. And those are fucking dime a dozen to me. They're all really good at what they do, but I'm not like that guy was really great or that guy wasn't great. They all do what they do and they're great. However, Stan Van Gundy's really set himself apart. He's been all over Twitter. I don't know if you heard a SVG call yet, but he's fantastic, and it makes sense. Former coach, and he's really good at telling the audience what's happening and what the strategy should be. So he's great. Doris Burke, I like Doris Burke. I don't know how y'all feel, but I've always liked DB on the call. I think she's really underrated. I think that a lot of people just don't like hearing a woman talk about sports, and that kind of exposes some of the underlying stuff going on there. But she's great. And normally Mason and I don't know how you feel, Rich. We're on the team of former players on the call. We've always liked that. And everyone always freaks out about Reggie. Everyone always freaks out about Chris Webber. And I'm just whatever, they're fine. They're not bad. I don't know why everyone freaks out. But this bubble has been terrible for these guys. I don't know what it is because
they don't have 4 days to prepare for their next game. They got a quick turnaround time. I don't think
they're doing nut shit, dude. You're in the bubble.
I don't know. Yeah, they're wasting
their time. Go back to your hotel room.
Studying.
And you get takeout from whatever steak joint they have a contract with, and you sit and you fucking study at least the name of the coaches. Mark Jackson is enemy number one of Memphis fans now for that. But it's just they just talk about the most dumb shit ever, and does no one play their audio back to him and say what are you talking about, man? It's so bizarre, and I wouldn't want to sound like an idiot on national television. I don't think anyone does, but all it takes is a little bit of preparation. It's just been bizarre. And honestly, now I get it. How do we feel about commentating? Or am I crazy? Am I being the grumpy guy on Twitter, or have they been crazy bad this bubble?
Yeah, I think I'm also in that same vein of I enjoy the former players for sure. Anytime I can hear some non-nerds talk about basketball, I'm all for it. I enjoy hearing the people that actually played the game and know what's up. But yeah, it's been pretty bad. I do think I'm a huge Doris Burke fan as well. Not a huge Mark Jones fan, but I feel like they have a really good rapport. I feel like they bounce really well off each other. They seem to enjoy commentating together. But yeah, I just see Webb sometimes he's just rambling and he'll like answer his own questions. Like he'll say something and then he'll be like, and you
what I mean by that.
And you ask what I mean by that. And it's like we know what you meant.
Nobody asked, bro.
Like, nobody asked. And so like, he's just rambling a lot. Lack of preparedness maybe, but I don't think it's been terrible. Like they kill him on Twitter. Like they kill him on Twitter.
I've got it.
Bad.
I think it's bad. Like
he's been bad. Reggie.
I haven't heard Reggie a lot.
I haven't heard Reggie a lot either. Reggie just talks. Like I remember my cousin. We were talking about this yesterday because he hates C Webb, and I think C Webb might have been on the Laker call yesterday. And he was like, "Man, dog, C Webb just talks so much." I'm like, "That's what they're paying him to." Like he can't sit on there and be silent, bro. Like he has to talk. It's just picking your spots and like also not answering your own questions.
Well, the difference is it's like weird. He could theoretically offer some awesome insight into like the game. I mean, he played it at a high level. C Webb multiple-time All-Star. Like you could have made it to the finals on those Kings teams had your Lakers not gotten the benefit of the whistle. No offense. We all know that story. But anyway, you see Webb played at a high level. He's not like some fucking Johnny rotation player. Mm-hmm. He's Christopher Webber. And like he doesn't give you insight into the game like a Stan Van Gundy does, for example. And I know Stan Van Gundy, he's a coach, so he knows it probably on a different kind of analytical level. But he just says like, "Wow, that was a really great shot." Like that's his commentary. It's not like here's what you need to do to make sure that shot works, or here's what he's looking at. Like here, he's looking for the defender to help off, and then because that defender helps, that he knows like he's got the defenses rotating, and then so that sort of stuff that you want to hear from a player that like really with the high basketball IQ. And I don't know, it's just been bad. But I used to like Chris Webber. Like, I used to think he was like he's a pleasant guy, and like he's like it's not like he says dumb shit. It's just like I don't know. He's a good commentator. I have enjoyed.
Forgive me, I do not know the white guy. It's a white guy and Jimmy Jackson, former NBA player. They've been doing a lot of the morning 1 p.m. games, and they've been slightly tolerable. They've been very pleasant. I've enjoyed them a little bit. I think they're with Turner Sports, so I think they're TNT games. But yeah, I had never heard Jim Jackson before, and he's somebody who also NBA player, wasn't at the level of C Webb or Reggie. But he's, offering some slight glimpses into the games and whatnot. But I enjoy him. Definitely Stan has been the highlight, though, for me, for sure. I think for so long, people have just fawned over his brother. And I'm kind of done with the Breen, Van Gundy, Jackson tandem. Like, it's just kind of worn out as well.
Yeah, kind of tough. It's a tough one, too.
I definitely am enjoying Stan Van Gundy in the bubble for sure.
Hey, Mike Breen was killing it with the bangs
the double
today.
Bang. Luka got him the double bang.
That's his wheelhouse, man. And,
but my thing is, I was beating him to it. I was like, "Come on, Mike, you need to like you're in the bubble. You got to say it before me."
It's been not necessarily the highlight, but some of the Stan Van Gundy form a fucking wall came back up and on my Twitter timeline. That's just fantastic. Jeff Van Gundy today brought that up the last play of the Mavs, and he's like, if my brother was coaching, we'd have him form a wall, and I love that. Just good stuff from the Van Gundys in general.
Yeah, it's amazing how much better someone like Stan or Doris sounds because they spend like maybe an hour researching the teams, like
right.
I mean, I'm sure it's a difficult job, but some of those old players just show up and take that check.
Is it? Yeah.
I mean, it can be easy.
Literally know the NBA.
That's what you do, though.
Yeah. Like you spend 8 hours a day at your job, 8+ hours, then if that's your job is to watch basketball, then you would expect a little bit higher level of knowledge, at least of the people involved in the game.
Yeah, you would expect that, but fellas, their checks are coming, regardless. It doesn't matter. It's not like ours where it's based on our work performance. Like they getting them checks no matter what.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we can't call them out for being bad at their job or lazy. We just say that. Yeah,
I'm just telling you, they don't care that they suck. Like it's obvious.
Yeah, like obviously, what that sucks. Like it's not a good product for us. Like if the guys at the Toyota factory building like 4Runners were like, our paychecks going regardless, and I'm driving on the interstate, my shit fucking flies over the, I'm dead. It's like that sucks. Anyway.
Yeah. So
you hear me? You heard me.
Yeah.
Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley mentioned on the call that him and Shaq were talking about cortisone shots, and Charles brought up how he got a different shot at one point. That was like they used to give to horses, and then everyone got real quiet, and Shaq was like, "I didn't get that." And then Charles was like, "I don't remember what it was called," and I'm pretty sure he like broke all NBA like drug like performance enhancer protocol and just aired out the Suns organization. So hopefully the statute of limitations is run on that. But that's fantastic. Those guys are great. You know, that's good shit. And like I will never. Those are my guys. Like, but you know, not C-Web.
And that came up last night about how boring the ESPN studio show is. The halftime, pregame.
Is that Jalen Rose and who else is on that?
I think last night it was Richard Jefferson,
Rachel Nichols,
somebody else.
Is Vince on that?
And sometimes it's Maria Taylor and Jalen Rose.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Vince is on like the players only kind of version of TNT. Okay. But let me just go ahead and say this: Vince is not a studio guy. He needs to be at the games, being a commentator. He is just way too boring to be a studio guy. Like they had him up there with, I think it was D-Wade and damn.
He disagreed with everybody. Like, D-Wade was like, yeah, Luka's real good. He was like, yep, real good. Yep.
Yeah, I'm like,
and then someone would be like, Luka sucks. He'd be like, well, I can see that too. Yeah,
and I love Vince Carter. But
yeah, no.
And we saw how good he was
haters,
when he was with the Grizzlies on the color commentary. And I just think that will be the best for him and for basketball fans if we get him on those national TV games eventually.
Sure. I think that's good. The Southwest Division is going to be really hard from now on, as Mason's pointed out, with the Mavs and the Pelicans. Spurs obviously will be rebuilding, but assuredly they'll find some Euro, late in this, probably at their 11th or 12th pick this year. That'll end up being an All-Star, and then they've still got DeRozan. They've still got LA. What happens there? Is there a scenario where you see this Grizzlies team beating the Mavs in the playoffs? Like, that's a really hard thing to imagine, beating Luka. And we have to do that. He's the gatekeeper now already, and that sucks. Like, it's kind of like we're already right back in it with some gatekeeper that we have to get through, like LeBron was for the East for so long. What do we think about the trajectory of the Southwest? And, I mean, it's good. You play against high-quality opponents. Like, it's good. It helps develop your team. But, Zach, what do you expect to see from the Southwest Conference going forward? Southwest Division, rather.
I mean, like you said, there's going to be a lot of – I think we've always kind of been in probably one of the toughest divisions in the NBA. You have several in the East that are weak. Out West, it's not always been the strongest. Both LA teams have had their struggles. And then the kind of Nuggets have separated themselves out here. But in our division, there's so much going on. You have, New Orleans is I don't even know if I want to say on the rise. There's a whole lot to see there before I can kind of figure out and sort out what they actually are. But going up against, San Antonio is always going to be back. They're always going to be in the mix. They're going to get there. I got to look and see. I forget where they're drafting, but they're going to find some sleeper. What is it?
I think they're at 10.
10? Oh, that's a perfect spot for them. They're going to find that random guy that you hadn't heard of in college or overseas, but in 2 to 3 years, he's going to be starting and killing us in the playoffs. That's just about how that usually goes. But I can echo all those sentiments of I think that's definitely going to be the toughest division in basketball going forward for at least the next 4 to 5 years, assuming that Memphis is able to hold on to all their guys. And if they're able to, we'll talk a little bit in the future, or a little bit in a few minutes about the future, bring in some more assets to build around our young core. I think that the fun part about it is that the other cores are so young that we're all going to be growing together and fighting against each other. That is going to make for a lot of fun down the road.
It ain't fun unless you can beat the Mavs, though. Shit. I don't see that. I mean, I don't know we can beat this team. Like, I know we'll get a lot better, but like that's the thing is like Luka still will Luka, and I mean, it's been kind of scary to watch them play. Like, what do you think, Mason? This is something you bring up a lot. This is a division.
I think we need to just go ahead and talk about the future of the Grizzlies next season and beyond, because I don't think we're going to be a playoff team next year. And I know this is something you are really high on, is trading for another piece right now. I think the Grizzlies could very easily finish 14th in the West next year. Golden State will be back. The only team that might fall off is OKC if they make moves, but they have so many picks right now. They're not in a rush to trade Chris Paul or Gallo or anyone like that to acquire more picks. Maybe they do it and acquire young talent and they kind of take a step back, but every other team in the West will be competing for a playoff spot. And, we're probably better than Sacramento. We're probably right there with Phoenix. Then after that, it's a free-for-all in the West, and anything could happen. Obviously, you hope that Ja makes the jump like Luka did in the year 2. I think it would be absurd to think he can do what Luka is doing, because what Luka is doing is unheard of, and just basically never been seen before from a second-year player his age.
Yeah, you got to put that out of your mind. That's not going to happen. I don't think. The Grizzlies could, and the Pelicans were right there, but Ingram is already an all-star. They've got Drew Holiday, so they do have a few players, and inevitably some of these teams will break it up and make moves. But I think if you're going into next season thinking of the Grizzlies as a potential, anything higher than a 6 seed or really in the playoff contender, I think it's very unlikely to happen. Vegas will probably say the same thing, which not to say that we can't surpass expectations, but I'm just not expecting next year to be as fun as this year was.
Yeah, I think anyone for sure who has expectations of like a high seed or a deep playoff run, I think they definitely need to temper those expectations. And I think like 7 or 8, sneaking in at the 7 or 8 seed, that's probably a lot more realistic if they were to make the playoffs. It's definitely going to be a barn burner of a season to try to get them in there.
Well, the two paths are, and I'll ask you guys this, is that you keep going with your guys. You don't make any crazy moves to get another talent here now. Like, as in, you don't trade any of your picks. You just sort of ride these guys out. And then I think it's likely that we miss the playoffs if we ride these guys out. Like, if we don't do anything to add to this roster, I think like it's likely we miss the playoffs unless there's catastrophic injuries from other teams. Or you trade some picks that you have. You got a Utah first. You got a Golden State Warriors first in 2024 that are good assets right now, and try to get a guy to add with John Jaren right now and win right now. And now whether that guy that adds to your team ends up putting you in a winning position, we don't know, but that is the move to win now. We've heard Zach Kleiman say sustainable success over and over again. That's his buzz term for what he wants to do, which to me says let's focus on the long term and not the win now mentality, which I think generally works well for young teams. I think this team's a little different because it's shown us that it can win now. Unlike a lot of young rosters, they're good enough. John Jaren are a good enough tandem to maybe put the right guys around them to overachieve. And I don't know whether that means making a 7 or 8 seed next year, but certainly being competitive for the West. So those are the two kind of ways you can go about it. Mason, with everything you said, what would you like to do if you're Zach Kleiman?
I'd run it back next year, be at the bottom of the West, and take a top draft pick in a loaded 21 class. Okay.
And what about you, Rich? Would you rather add like a Levine and Buddy Hield and or whatever? Like I don't think Bradley Beal's really in the equation. Some people say Justin Holiday, someone like that, right? Like a mid-20s, not old guy, but someone that's definitely more of a vet. And add that. What'd you do, Mace?
I spit my drink out because you said Justin Holiday.
Oh, you know who I meant. Mason's roster's in my head. Yeah, what would you do? Would you, what would you do for these guys right now, this Grizzlies roster?
Yeah, I think it's tough. I'm also in the same boat of I'm not sure if this is a playoff roster next year. And I know that the 2021 draft.
Let's assume that it's not. Let's assume that it's like that. If you don't do anything, you're not making the playoffs. I think that's a safe assumption.
I think so because you have to take into account not only Golden State, but also somebody I'm looking at is Minnesota as well. Getting a full season under their belt with D'Lo and Cat and the number 1 overall pick, whoever they decide to take on.
They should be better than the Grizzlies. Now, whether they should be better than the Grizzlies. Yeah. A wishful thinking. I still think we're another piece away.
whether a Buddy Hield or Zach LaVine is a game changer, even somebody like a Justin Jackson in Dallas who can't seem to get in their rotation, but who can also put the ball in the basket as a high percentage 3-point shooter, et cetera. I would love to see them get a scoring threat, someone who can just put the ball in the basket, because a lot of these teams that we mentioned, I don't know if the Grizzlies can keep up with them scoring wise. That's my biggest fear. That's my biggest concern. But honestly, this year was fun as hell. I would definitely be inclined to run it back, just because I still think we haven't seen a healthy Winslow integrated, who was supposed to be that new piece, that Swiss Army knife. So I think that they're probably going to run it back, see what they have. But I still think that even in that, there's still another piece that needs to be added sometime down the line, whether that's a high-level draft pick or another scoring mid-tier veteran player.
Yeah. Would you rather trade, and I'll get to Zach, would you rather trade the picks that we have now that you don't know what those become? You don't even know where they fall because we don't know how good those teams are going to be. We just saw the Celtics, Kings, and Grizzlies pick become kind of trashy, because they kept them and didn't trade them. That is one kind of school of thought. Or, would you rather acquire a talent that we know is what they are, or would you rather say, let's tank for 2021 and pick a high guy in there and hope that they're good? I did it. That's like a known talent, like a known asset, like a Buddy Hield. We know what he is. We know what he does well, and we know what he doesn't. Or like hope that we take a guy in 2021 that probably has a higher ceiling than Buddy Hield, like a Jalen Green, for example, but also might not turn out. What would you rather do, Rich?
I would fucking love Buddy Hield. I would love Buddy Hield, who is kind of disgruntled in Sacramento anyway, coming off the bench. But I mean, like you said, we know who he is. He's been the same player since he was at Oklahoma, right? High volume shooter, scorer, not really contributing much else. But what the Grizzlies need is someone who can score the ball in the basket, because there's just so many periods of time where it's just plodding and where we're searching for a basket, we're searching for a bucket. And, with draft picks, of course, that's hit or miss. We fucking hit on Ja. We fucking hit on Brandon Clark. We fucking hit on Jaren. So I do trust this front office to make the right decision in drafting, which I didn't with the previous regime, of course. But to answer your question, give me Buddy Hield or Zach LaVine.
Zach, what do you think? What would you do? Zach was frozen as hell.
Yeah. All right. So, Sam, let me ask you this. If you say don't. Oh, Zach.
First, thanks everyone for listening to us on Dash Radio's Nothing But Net channel. And
all right, I'm going to remove Zach. So let me if you add Zach LaVine or Buddy Hield to this team, say you don't have to trade anyone away, where does that get us in the West?
So the theory is like, and I mean, it's no secret that I'm more of like, I think putting a guy around these guys and showing the team's commitment to winning is important. That's the Verno school of thought, right? These guys have shown that they want to win, that they don't want to tank. And I would be afraid of like the kind of the mental mechanics of just having a really bad season. And I know that, if like they just lose a bunch, like I don't think they're going to suddenly be losers like we saw for the Suns for the longest time. But I think you really wouldn't have to give up for Buddy, for example. I don't think you'd have to give up like a current roster guy like Brandon Clark is a guy we don't want to give up, obviously. I think we'd be able to trade those picks, like the picks I mentioned, the Golden State pick, the Utah pick, maybe another pick of ours in 2023 or something when we should theoretically be pretty good. And those picks, I don't think will be good. I think they're good assets to trade now, but I think you run the risk of waiting. And then suddenly you're picking 15, your roster is middling in the West. And it's like, are you really going to add a guy that helps you right now? You're picking based on like what could potentially happen, and everyone assumes with drafts that the best case scenario happens when it almost certainly never does. You never end up where you want to. It's often contrary to what you end up doing. Like for example, the Jaren year, we dropped down to 4th in the Luka draft, and then the Ja year we like try to win, and then we end up vaulting to 2nd. And I know the NBA doesn't scheme that, but it's just like, with the new flattening of the curve in the draft, I don't even think trying to win next year necessarily hurts our odds at launching up into the draft if things don't work out. But I would just like to see these guys at this age take a run while they're on rookie deals, and we have the money to plug in someone that can score at that spot if we can get one of those guys in. And I'd like to see them play and see what they could do, and if they fail and end up winning 35 games and missing the playoffs, then we end up in the draft and we see what happens. But then we know, you know what I mean? Like, I just kind of like to see what that could look like.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And to be clear, I don't want to tank next year. I just don't think we will be good enough to win.
You think it'll necessarily tank? Yeah, we'll just naturally tank, right?
Yeah, and I mean, maybe I'll be surprised, like Rich said, we haven't seen Justice Winslow. We haven't seen Dylan Brooks as the 2 guard or maybe coming off the bench in a different role. So things could change by the time we see this team next year, whenever that may be. Hell, they might have enough time that Ja's an all-star by the time we come back because he's improved so much.
Right.
Because Adam Silver has said that their goal is to play when fans can be back in arenas next season. And I mean, that's not on the horizon anytime soon. So it could be a while before we get basketball. So cherish the bubble playoffs while we have them. But then to counter your point about winning and bringing those guys in is you're bringing in 2 guys that have never won in their NBA careers who all they know is losing. And they want their shots and they want the ball. So that's just something to be weary of if you were to bring in Levine or Buddy Hield. That could fuck up everything we have, and then we're stuck in mediocrity forever.
I don't think it'd fuck up everything we have. I mean, I think if they even worst case scenario, if they come in, we've given up theoretically a couple first-round picks that may not be good. And that even if they are good, that you can't guarantee you draft the good player with them. And then you also can't guarantee that those players will ever reach there's so many variables with picks. I think there was a switch at some point when we started valuing first round picks more than we value currently good players. And that to me is just such a weird thing that happened. Like, Buddy Hield's good. Like he shoots like over 40%. Yeah, he's good, man. Like,
he wasn't that great on Sacramento and they sucked.
Yeah, he did suck this year, and he got benched, and like he's been a bitch.
Obvious attitude problems, like
sure, yeah, on that team. I mean, it'd be hard not to have attitude problems on that team, though. I mean, like they're like a car, they're like a car wreck, and they're just like horrendous to watch, and like the front office has never been good, and they've made a lot of changes. So I don't really take the Suns or the even the Bulls or the Kings, those trash franchises. I don't really take much from those either way. I'm not like, wow, he's really great because he scored a lot on that team. And I'm also not like he's trash because he, all he does is look for a shot on, Levine or Buddy Hield's case. But you just look at the numbers and he would really fit. All signs point he would really fit to what we need and what we do. And that just, to me, he'd be a good fit, for example. Like, I mean, Buddy's like who we're focusing on. But I think if you give up a couple picks, you don't know what they're going to be. And you get a guy like that in here, his contract actually Buddy's contract is quite modest. He signed an extension with Sacramento. It's like 20 a year. And it's like it's not as max. It's not like what Levine is going to make or currently makes. And his contract rolls off just as you're about to extend Jaren, so you give it a whirl right now. If it doesn't work, then you're right in the lottery like you want. If it does, then you're dancing, like these guys are winning already. And Buddy's contract rolls off just in time to when you've shown what you are, maybe bring someone in, sign him. Maybe someone says like those Grizzlies, man, like that's a team I want to play for. Just like what the Mavs did with Luka and KP, right? They brought KP in. They didn't let Luka squander around and win 20-something games his sophomore year. I think that's important.
Yeah,
I don't think they would. The Mavs would not have had the season they've had if they hadn't done what they did.
But we can't compare Porzingis and fucking Buddy Hield and Zach LaVine. Porzingis is a 7'3" unicorn, like out of this world. He's good in the NBA. We know that.
Yeah, but so is Buddy.
He's somebody that also like similar to the vein of Buddy and Zach, like came from
the Knicks never won
losing.
With KP.
Like he came from losing, right? Yeah. And I think,
but he was younger, like in the second year.
But you have somebody like Buddy and Zach who, well, more so in Zach's case, has had the green light, right? And it hasn't worked. And I think he's starved to win. Like he wants to win. Like that Jim Boylan is out in Chicago, but that culture was just not a winning culture. You got somebody like Buddy. I can look at Luke Walton and I can tell you right now, he wouldn't motivate me. So I couldn't imagine how he's trying to motivate NBA players. And so, sometimes a change of scenery is needed. Kristaps Porzingis was with the fucking Knicks. He was a Knick, right? And of course, they're just a terrible, terrible, bad luck franchise, right? And, to Sam's point, Dallas made a move. They saw what they had in Luka his rookie year and said, okay, we're going to push all these chips in and try to make this move. They didn't know what was going to happen. Kristaps was coming off a major injury they really bet on him.
He's always been hurt. Like he doesn't play full seasons ever. And he's 25. He's not young. Like a lot of people think he's like Luka's age. He's not. I mean, Buddy's 2 years older than him. He's Zach LaVine's age. Like it's not like they added some young talent. You know, I mean, they did, but you know what I mean?
The trigger. They made a move. They did, you know, they pushed their cards to the table. So sometimes that's what you got to do, right?
Hey, they say controversy is good for radio. So,
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is there's no answer here. Like, because if that Utah pick or that Golden State pick or any of those other potential future round Grizzlies picks that we hold, we have all our picks from now on, conveyed our pick to Boston. So we have all of our first round picks for the foreseeable future. If one of those ends up becoming a third guy, then we'll all look back and say, damn, I'm glad we didn't trade that. But I think there's a heavy overvaluation of first round picks because we assume they're going to be the best case scenario. Like I said, that they're going to fall, they're going to jump higher than we thought they would be because some crazy injury happens to Utah that year or Golden State's not good anymore. So they end up high. And then also that's a good draft year. And then also that the guy we want, we pick. And then also that we develop that guy, you know, it's just, there's so many things that you hope for to get a guy like Ja, to get a guy like Jarrett, but we've got those guys. Now we just need to add another piece. And I think there's known commodities currently in the league that fit that bill rather than just like betting on a draft piece.
Yeah, but I think it's the same thing betting on, you know, some of these unproven guys. I mean, when we made the trade for Jeff Green, I remember that article, like the big tweet from ESPN was player on Western Conference team says Memphis Grizzlies now stacked and favored to win Western Conference. And, you know, that didn't work out. So even the trades don't work out. Just like draft picks don't. So we don't know. And I would just be on the side of not trading those assets going into this season to try to find that third piece because I just don't think he's out there right now. I would be more on the side of pairing one of those Utah or Golden State picks with your late lottery pick next year and moving up in the draft and maybe getting a Cade Cunningham or Jalen Green, someone like that. So bunch of things that you could do, and that's why Zach Kleiman gets paid the big bucks.
Yeah, we'll see what he does, and we'll see what happens. But next year is going to be disappointing. I agree. I think we ought to prepare for that. And I think a lot of the media thinks that too. And they really, you know, why shouldn't they? It's we don't win very sustainably. You know, we don't like blow out teams. We don't do anything particularly well. We're not a great defensive team. We run and we can get running. But you know that's not super sustainable.
It's like an if and or when, like
right? Yeah, it's like takes so many things to get there. So I do think we heavily overachieved this year, and I think mostly because it was due to our schedule. We played a lot of, and I think we were very, very underrated, you know, by other teams. I think a lot of teams thought they'd come into Memphis and get an easy win, and so we, for the first 20 or 30 games of the season, were able to steal ones just because suddenly like John Jaren are pretty good, and it was like, oh, I actually have to play tonight. But I don't know, man. Like I don't want to like make a dumb trade, but like I just want to get guys in here that want to win, you know, and mostly get Dylan out. You all know I'm out on Dylan, and I think he like hurts us in a lot of ways, and will hurt our players' development. I just don't want him around. And so, but right now the way our roster is constructed is we need him to win. So that to me is the worst scenario where he feels like he's needed to win because he literally is. But I just, you know, I don't know. What else do you guys want to talk about?
He was a huge part of that January when we went on the run and, you know, went above 500. So to be determined what he is. You are listening to us on Nothing But Net's or Dash Radio's Nothing But Net channel. And we talked a lot about draft picks. Just to be clear, the Grizzlies got the 14th pick in the draft lottery for the 2020 NBA draft. And that, of course, conveyed to the Boston Celtics. So as Sam mentioned, we are free of, you know, owing picks to anyone. We got all our own money in our pockets walking down the street moving forward.
We got some other people's money too.
Yeah, we got a little extra change, man. We took some lunch money. Shout out to the Mike Conley trade. And anything y'all want to hit on the draft lottery? I mean, Minnesota got number 1, Golden State 2, and who got 3? Chicago, was it?
Charlotte,
yeah. So, I mean, whoop-de-doo. I'm not huge on this draft class. We got James Wiseman in there, Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball.
My take on this draft is that there's like, and this is, everyone said this, so I'm just copying like Kevin O'Connor or something, but he's there's like a million, and reading his draft guide and reading other draft guides at like from pick 10 to pick like 25, there's just insert name of like 3-and-D wing. Guys that can shoot, guys that are like either 22, a little older, played 4 years in college, or some 18, 19-year-olds that have like crazy wingspans that are more upside. But there's just a lot of guys like that could be great starting rotation, Danny Green type players this draft. So I think it sucks we don't have that.
Danny Green. Oh, Danny Green.
Yeah, sorry, not like
Danny Green.
Sorry, I didn't mean to trigger you, Rich.
How many more?
How many more?
How many more are you gonna take, bro?
He got to look at Dame's jersey because it says 0 more.
Stop, if you're listening, please.
Yeah. So my desire would be and of course, like anytime we propose these fake blog boy trades, it's like we don't know shit. We don't know if any team would actually accept this. So you're supposing that the Grizzlies would even want to do it, and then also they'd be able to find someone that would also want to do it. But my theory is like you trade Dylan to try to get somewhere in the middle of the first round and draft one of these a Dylan replacement basically that's younger and smarter and better and a better fit for our culture, which we're establishing, and which Kleiman mentioned a lot in his closing speech was the culture of young guys that like each other, that are smart, that love the game, that want to excel at their profession, which is playing basketball. And I think they've really done that with Brandon Clark, with Jaren, with Ja, and Tyus, their additions, Justice. Those kids are all like they're just great kids, man, and they just get it. They're not going to be fucking around and doing dumb shit any more than anyone would at that age, but they're not like particularly ridiculous or anything. So I say all this to say, I've texted this. Aaron Nesmith at Vandy's my guy in the middle of the first round. He's like 20. He's right in the age of John Jaren. He's 6'6", 6'10" wingspan, 220s. He's a thick, athletic kid, and he shot 56% from three at Vandy. Got hurt. He had a foot injury that put him out the rest of the season. But he averaged 23 points a game for him. He was their best player, and he's just like the prototypical, 2 or 3 guard that can switch and guard anybody. He can play the switching offense that the 5-man out offense that we like to play. And I think that adding a guy like that this year makes a lot of sense. So that would be my desire. What have you guys seen from the draft?
I think you touched on it a lot. I've seen a lot of wings, right? 3 and D. There's always a lot of emphasis on the D, but you got to make sure that
always, baby,
always emphasis on the D.
Podcast is going to change its name to emphasis on the D.
And I love Nesmith. He's definitely caught my
Nesmith's
eye.
Another one.
I love Sadiq Bey from Villanova. Who else? Man, this draft.
Evan Bissell from TCU.
Yeah, definitely. This draft is just not top heavy at all. Like I would have hated to have a high lottery pick in this draft. I literally do not know what those decisions are going to be. But
you just trade down, I guess.
Yeah, you trade down.
Yeah.
There's some talk that some teams are going to do that. But yeah, I definitely think, if the Grizz were able to package a deal when they could move up in that mid-tier area of the first round to snag one of those, 6'6", 6'7", shooter, wing defenders, high IQ, high character guys would definitely be great. All the draft profiles and mocks that I've been reading, this draft is just 2021 is where it's at. Is what I've taken away from all of this is that 2021 draft is where it's at. But yeah, I think my guy would definitely be Sam. Your point, the Vandy.
Yeah, I think we lost Rich too. The internet's just taking people out one by one tonight. So yeah, I don't know a lot about the draft. I don't think it's unheard of for us to trade up in this year's draft and try to find that missing piece. I
don't think it would be a missing third option. I think it would be just another really good guy to have around.
A rotation player.
Exactly. They can maybe become that. I mean, you never know with these guys, right? Like, Kawhi Leonard, no one thought. It's just, you hear those stories all the time. But I think that there'd be a lot of value in swapping out a guy that we know is not going to be the long-term answer. Like, we just know it, right? Like,
right.
And trying to get another guy in there that fits our culture a little bit better, that could grow with John Jaren and kind of come in and know it's their team. And Dylan had the green light his rookie year, and he had the green, because like we were tanking that year, and I think that it was kind of a tough way to indoctrinate him into this team now. But I don't like. So, is there any world in which the Timberwolves, the Dubs, and then the Hornets keep those picks and draft, the top 3 guys, LaMelo, Wiseman, and Anthony Edwards are the commonly top 3? I heard someone say that if that those three are going to be taken at the top, like regardless, because if any of those three teams don't value those guys, they'll just trade down, but they will trade down to a team that obviously does value them and wants to take them there, because why else would you trade up unless you wanted those three guys? Because you're going to be able to get other guys later because, so you could just sit back and hang out. So that there is a lot of basically consensus. Those three guys are going to go up there. But does the Timberwolves pair Anthony Edwards with D'Lo and Cat? Do they trade down? I mean, what happens in the draft? Have you guys heard anything, or what are your theories?
I think Charlotte has to pick, right? They just don't have enough talent on their roster to not pick somebody. Their roster just isn't that good, right?
They jumped up 5 spots too. They did basically what the Grizzlies did last year to get jobs.
Jumped in there. I myself, a lot of the mocks I've seen have been Anthony Edwards going to Minnesota. I just don't. They say they're sliding him in at the 2 with D'Lo and Cat. It's just there's one ball, and Anthony Edwards, D'Lo, Karl Anthony Towns, Malik Beasley, they all get buckets. Like they all put the ball in the hole. I just don't know what that looks like on the defensive side on the floor for them. I know Josh Okogie is still there. Jared Culver, who was a high lottery wing pick last year for them, I think 6 overall. And so that I don't know. And then
they got Malik Beasley too.
Yeah, Beasley gets buckets, right? And I think personally that Wiseman slots in perfectly with Golden State as their 5. It's just, do they want to invest that high of a draft pick in a player when they know Steph and Clay are coming back and they can just go on the veteran market and get somebody at the 5 to just rebound, block shots, and rim run for them? I think that's the question that I think they might ask themselves. So I could foresee Golden State trading down, Charlotte keeping their pick, and Minnesota, I don't know. They have a tough decision on their hands. This is not a draft where I would want the number 1 pick where there isn't a consensus number 1. And Melo, I personally think Melo, I know Melo would like to go to a big market. And so I think as far as those teams is concerned, I think Chicago at number 4 would make the most sense for him. I think Chris Dunn is their starting point guard currently, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, man, this draft is just not exciting. It's definitely interesting that this is the draft that gets pushed back, and there's the virtual lottery and everything, just because there's not much buzz about it at all to begin with.
Yeah, when we could be like having all kinds of draft content, no one cares because
right,
we're like,
no one in it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing about them trading down is who's going to trade up. I mean, the Knicks, the Bulls. Yeah. That's about all I got.
Yeah.
And I mean, sure, the Knicks might trade up twice. Who knows?
They might to get Melo. Like the people are talking about, even though they got this front office that should be smarter than Knicks history, but just to get a splash player, someone that just
they need Melo.
Puts asses in the seats. Not that Madison Square Garden has any issue with that, but you know what I mean. Like
the report on Twitter today was that the Knicks are in prime position to sign a veteran free agent, like all-star free agent or something.
Oh, I'm sure they are. Yeah. Sure they are. Prime position.
They're going to sign Paul George.
They're really banking on these Leon Rose connections, man.
Well, here's the thing we know, man. First of all, Leon Rose looks exactly like Tibbs. Did y'all know that? I didn't know he looked like that.
I didn't know he was black until like 3 months ago.
Dude, me neither.
I just assumed he was black. It's terrible.
Same. That's really funny. Yeah. So the thing about every draft ever, like 2013, Anthony Bennett goes number 1. And inevitably there's guys in the draft class, the first round, that end up being all-stars. They end up being really great players. There will be guys in this draft class that are really good. And whether it's Wiseman, we don't think so, or Anthony Edwards, we don't think it's going to be any of the top 3 guys. Maybe LaMelo, because he probably has the highest ceiling, I think. To become that kind of all-star talent, at least from things I've read. But there are guys in this draft. It's a matter of finding them. And it does suck to not at least have a crack at that. Have a crack at the Kawhi or the Giannis, the guys that fall down, or the Devin Booker even picked at number 10. The guys that fall down in the draft that you can make valuable players immediately. Look at Tyler Hero, who's already contributing for a Miami team about to sweep Indiana in their first round. There's guys there, and there will be guys in this draft, and that just sucks to not have a crack at it. That's kind of when I want to get our chips back in the game and at least have a crack at picking a guy that could really fit with this roster.
So what do we have? A second rounder this year?
Yeah, 40.
Probably
need a backup, a third point guard. Peyton Pritchard is someone that's been talked about there. because we saw what happened when Tyus went down. We had no point guard behind Ja. So more draft coverage to come. We're kind of pushing up against it right now. So let's just hit on our final playoff predictions. I think all the first round series will be completed by the time we're on next week. The Raptors swept the Nets. We also had the Celtics sweeping the Sixers. The Magic stole game 1 from Milwaukee. You guys expecting the Bucks to win the next couple games and have that series over with?
Yes.
Okay, me too. Miami, Indiana. I originally picked Miami in 6. Doesn't look like it's going to take that long. I know, Sam, you're a big fan of Miami. They got Duncan Robinson shooting the ball, like you just mentioned. Harrow's playing really well. Our buddy Kendrick Nunn left the bubble and since has really not seen the court that much. I know he had at least 2 of those. He might have got some run in their last game. I'm not sure.
I didn't watch it, so I don't know.
Yeah, any thoughts
completely out of the rotation.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
What they were wearing Rookie of the Year shirts. Man, fuck out of here.
Yeah,
bullshit.
Like, was he? What happened? I mean, what do we think? What's on Reddit? Have we read anything? I haven't read anything.
I haven't looked into it. The reason around him leaving the bubble is kind of unclear.
It wasn't a family emergency. Like, we know it wasn't like Zion or like.
They haven't said that, and they haven't said it was an injury or anything. So, really don't know. But Eric Spoelstra was saying that Nunn is a big part of what we do, and we're going to need him as the playoffs progress. So we'll see. And also, I mean, Dragic's just a better player. Especially for a Miami team that relies on ball movement, and they can kind of get stagnant though. And Dragic is someone who can get his own shot and get to the basket. So maybe just a better fit for playoff basketball. Anyone expecting the Pacers to make a comeback?
No.
Cool.
They really missed the bonus.
All right. Houston, OKC. OKC got 1 game. How y'all feeling about that series, Rich?
Yesterday, definitely OKC got one. I think it's just been, I honestly thought Houston, if they got yesterday's game, they were just going to sweep while still being able to rest Westbrook, which I know would have been best case scenario for them. I still think that Houston is going to pull it out. There's just, too many 3-pointers, too many James Harden step backs, ISO ball. OKC is fighting. I just don't think they have enough offensive firepower to keep up with Houston. So I think it's over in 5, honestly.
Sam?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is that we've seen Rockets collapse in the playoffs before, so it wouldn't be unheard of, especially if Russ can't play. But yeah, I think Houston takes the next 2. Maybe OKC gets 1 more. Chris Paul might summon up some magic and take 1 more. Houston might win in 6. Denver and Utah is on as we record this show. Utah's up 2-1. Denver's currently leading by 1 at the half. Thoughts on this series? Because I thought Denver was going to run away with it. Donovan Mitchell turned in a superb performance and still lost game 1. And then we've seen Utah, just kind of outplay Denver. Denver doesn't have that go-to guy. Jokic is maybe not as good as we thought he was when it comes to playoff basketball. Sam, how you feeling about that series?
Yeah, exactly like you said. It's been fun, though. It's kind of been one of the hidden gems, I think, of the playoffs that a lot of people thought. The 2 teams that no one necessarily believes in, I think. No one thinks that they will actually make a serious run at anything. Kind of probably like the Grizzlies of yesteryear. We always mention that. Kind of middling of the Western Conference, 4, 5, 6 seeds that don't have like a notable star. Well, I guess Utah has Donovan. But particularly the Nuggets. They just don't have another guy. I thought that Jamal Murray, their number 2, was gonna, after that first game when he won, kind of took the team on his shoulders, and he is who he thought he was. He's streaky at best.
He is Lil Ball Fro.
Yeah, aka Lil Ball Fro. It's fantastic. And yeah, he just he's not able to be that consistent guy they need him to be. And the Nuggets just don't have that guy. You thought Michael Porter Jr. might be that, but I just don't think he's ready for the moment. He's barely played any NBA basketball. So I believe in the Jazz at this point just because they have more guys. It's shocking, considering they don't have Bog or they don't have who else is hurt on the Jazz right now? Or is that it? They just don't have one of their wings.
I think they're losing Bog and Ed Davis, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, Ed Davis, yeah. But it's been fun to watch, and Mike Conley had a kind of renaissance game where he came back from. We mentioned it earlier. That was good to see. It's kind of hard to root for that either of these teams. Something we've talked about a lot.
Yes.
If I'm the Nuggets, man, like it would suck to lose this series to a kind of a limping Utah team. You know, you're the 3 seed. You should be performing, at least winning that series pretty well. You've got an identity with your team, and I don't know. At what point do we think Mike Malone isn't the guy for the job, or at least if they need to make some kind of trade to bring someone in?
Yeah, I mean, right now they're tied 75 up, 8 minutes left in the third, and you know, I thought after that game 1, Denver was just going to run away with this. Like I think they should, honestly. But I know today, game 3 or game 4, Michael Porter Jr. was taken out of the starting lineup. They inserted Monte Morris. So it's clear Mike Malone is still sifting through some things. But yeah, I just don't see that killer instinct. I don't see that takeover. I don't know if they're ready. And, you know, everybody keeps talking about, well, they need a veteran to bring it home. But they're fucking paying Paul Millsap to be that guy. And I haven't heard his name called this entire series, honestly. I don't think. Yeah,
he ain't bringing shit home but the check.
Shit home but the check.
Him, Horford, and Tobias Harris. Man.
Right, they all just stealing checks, man.
Overpaid, positionless guys. They can't really do anything.
That's it. So definitely hard to root for either of these teams. I'm not rooting for either of these teams, but somebody has to win, and I think it's gonna be Utah. I think Mike, like we spoke to, has been rejuvenated. Joe Ingles hits timely shots, timely threes that kind of suck the life out of you a little bit. And then they still got Spider and Gobert. So yeah, I think Utah advances, and I think that is a huge disappointment on behalf of the Nuggets, for sure. And so we'll see. Mike Malone, I know they're without Will Barton as well as Gary Harris. We should note that, but at the same time, they're just too deep. They have too much talent to be struggling with this Utah team.
Yeah, I feel like Joe Ingles got his shot back in that game against the Grizzlies in the bubble when we left him wide open time after time, and he just got in practice shots in a game setting. So I like the Jazz, too, to win the series. And I think, you know, for Mike Malone, he's had too much regular season success, so people expect a lot out of him in the playoffs. And their team's just really not built for the playoffs. Like, they don't have that go-to guy. Murray was it in the one game, as we said, over and over again, but Joker's not that guy, and you know, even Will Barton, if he was healthy, or Gary Harris, like they're not the guys you give it to at the end of a playoff game to go get you a bucket. So I would stick with Mike Malone, but that could be a team that maybe shakes it up and looks to make a big splash and via trade or free agency at some point, maybe not next year, but in the near future, because I don't think they have what it takes to make a deep run in the playoffs. All right, Lakers, Blazers. Blazers stole game 1. Well, I mean, they won game 1, and the Lakers have bounced back. They had a blowout in game 2, and then won a pretty close one last night in game 3, in which LeBron turned back the clock and was incredible, which really got AD going, who finally in the second half started playing playoff basketball, playing like a man. That, you know, oh man, LA fans were mad after game 1. Let me tell you. So Rich, how you feeling? What are your Lakers going to do? Will they close them out in 5?
Yeah. I'm going to go 6. 4-2. Yeah. Game 1 was just, you know, they took that L, and yesterday, like, I'm not going to lie, I was a little nervous. But I think AD has to come with that killer instinct, and they can't stop him in the post. And I get it. His jump shot is feathery. It's beautiful, but he settles and bails him out too much, drifting, taking jump shots outside of the paint. There was a third quarter surge yesterday where he was able to knock down a lot of elbow jumpers, one in the pick and roll with Caruso. And that thing was just flying. It was beautiful. But yeah, I really think, you know, this is Bron's team, but they really go as AD goes. Like, he has to be that second guy to provide help. I think Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has stepped up and started hitting some shots. Danny Green still, I don't know, man. Danny Green is just killing me, honestly. He's just out there running laps. He's just out there doing cardio, man. He's just running back and forth. That's it. This is a workout for him, $15 million a year. But yeah, I think that was vintage Braun last night. You know, taking it to him. I think this series has exposed Nurkic a little bit. They're just driving it in on him. He's laying it up a little bit too, like just softly. You know, LA is just too big to be trying the finger rolls and the feathery drop-offs. But yeah, and honestly, I think Portland, they're a little gassed too. Like, they've been in the playoffs basically for 2-3 weeks now. They've been playing sudden death for a minute. So they're a little gas. I mean, Dame and CJ can get theirs. Carmelo is still streaky, but I think they might still get one more just for the pride. I see Dame having another throwback performance, but I think Lakers close it out 4-2 and they move on.
Anything else, Sam, that you want to add?
Man, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, Rich, I do want to ask on the wings. Who do you want to see in the game? Do you want to see JR, Dion? I mean, because Caruso is like the best perimeter player outside of LeBron.
Caruso is the best perimeter player.
It's fucking crazy.
How did they get here?
This series has shown the true value of Avery Bradley, first and foremost. They really miss him. They miss Rondo, too. Looking forward to seeing what Rondo can bring if he can do something because it's just the perimeter defense and talent is just lacking. I don't want to be dependent upon J.R. Smith, but I think I don't want to see Danny Green, honestly. I'm not going to lie. We like to talk about defense and hitting shots, but it's just not there right now. JR has had an opportunity. His shot's still a little off. I honestly would like to see, KCP, Caruso, and Dion. Dion can get a bucket, but the thing, he's a liability on the defensive end. Yeah. But Lakers need shot creators. Sometimes they get stagnant when Braun and AD aren't out there. Dion Waiters, if it's one thing he can do, is create his own shot. He can get to the lane, get a bucket. But yeah, I think this roster is being exposed as well. It leaves a lot to be desired. It's a lot of past their prime, just NBA role players paired up with AD and LeBron James. And the roster is just not that deep. We should not be as dependent upon Caruso as we are. But shout out to him for stepping up and trying. But there's only so much he can do. He's limited.
He's pesky as fuck, man.
He's pesky as fuck.
Any rebound that comes down, he's swiping up.
I just need him to hit them open shots, man. He's got to hit those open threes on the driving kick. Like, he's got to. But yeah, I think we go as AD goes, and we're gonna have to ride him home. He's the big dog. So we'll see. We need some wings and some guards this summer, though, for sure. I would love like a DJ Augustine or something. Like, we need that backup guard who can just facilitate offense, just get people in their spots, run the show. But yeah, we need They need a lot, honestly. This roster to be the number one seed in the West is not that talented, to be real. And I think that's just a testament to AD and Braun, And shout out Frank Vogel, too, for not getting in LeBron's way. So,
all right, in the final series, Clippers, Mavericks. Sam, how you see this one playing out?
7, man. Like, I think it's going to 7. At least I hope it is. It depends on if KP comes back, too. I don't think that they can win another game if Porzingis doesn't decide to get a cortisone shot and suit up. I just can't see Luka doing this again. It took literally a transcendent, like a Hall of Fame level playoff performance to get this win in overtime. Even with his guys doing pretty well. I mean, you got a 25-point game from Trey Burke. You just can't count on a lot of that. So I think they need his second banana to come in and help him out a little bit. I just can't see that happening again. But then again, I didn't see it happening this time. So he keeps impressing me with every game. But yeah, I see that going to 7. We didn't talk about the Celtics Toronto second round matchup too, which is going to be fantastic. I think those games start Thursday, so those games will have started by the time we record next time, which I think is going to be epic. What do we think about the 76ers, man? Swept a roster that was ill put together from the beginning. Front office is just spiraling out of control, and a coach is probably about to be fired. I mean, not good looking out over there with those Philly Frenetic fans.
Yeah, it's just a hot ass mess. I think from the process to Sam Hinkie's resigning, Elton Brand coming in, the wasted lottery picks, being carved up by Jason Tatum, who you could have had, definitely doesn't help at all. But yeah, they're just an ill put together roster. The fit is just atrocious. I don't trust Joel Embiid as the number one on any contending team. I think Ben Simmons' injury definitely hurt, but I still think the Celtics would have beat them. They probably wouldn't have got swept, but they still would have beat them. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's for Joel. It looks like it's hurting him, honestly, to run up and down the court. Like he's laboring. It's tough. He's gifted, talented as fuck. But yeah, this roster, something got to give. You're investing all this money into Tobias Harris and Al Horford, who were giving you 6 to 8 points a game. Like that's just not okay. They had some young, probably like Tybal and Shake Milton, who or more so specialists. Like Matisse Thybulle a defender. Shake Milton can knock down threes, but they don't really, provide that much on the offensive end. I just don't know where they go from here. I don't know, where, if Joel and Ben coexist together in a winning environment. But yeah, I think Brett Brown is gone. And I think a lot of it is him being a scapegoat. Like, yeah, he hasn't maximized talent, but this roster that was put together is just not a good fit, right? He can't really control that. And I think you look at a team like Boston, who it pains me to ever like talk positively about the Celtics. I loathe the Celtics, but I fucking love Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Yeah. I think they are two of the best wings in the league. And they're just running, man. And I think, they lost Gordon Hayward. They haven't missed a beat, honestly. So I think this Toronto, might have helped. This Toronto-Boston series is going to be popcorn ready. So
yeah,
I'm
it's going to be awesome. Well, and before we get into what else happens with Clippers and Mavs, I want to bring up the possibility of the 76ers wanting to unload either Horford or Tobias Harris, and your Memphis Grizzlies having some cap space potentially. At next season, if we were able to trade Gorgie Dang and expiring and a few other expirings on our roster as well, is that something that you would be interested in, Mason, taking on a shitty contract for a bunch of Philly first-round picks next year in addition to your plan, or is that something you would rather not do?
I mean, I think it would definitely expedite the tank if that's what we're trying to do. I don't want anything to do with those two guys. I'm not going to call them losers, but I don't want anything to do with Tobias Harris or Al Horford.
I think Al Horford could be good for the team. I mean, we wouldn't be better, but I think he's a good guy to have in your locker.
If he was on like a vet minimum, yeah, but he's making maximum contract. How Elton Brand can justify letting Jimmy Butler and JJ Redick walk when you have Embiid and Simmons, and you bring in you re-sign Tobias instead of Jimmy, and you bring in Al Horford to try to do the Twin Towers thing in 2020. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, malpractice, some would say. Just ridiculous. You had a team that was really good, and Jimmy Butler was the heart and soul of it. And, you let them walk, and here you are now in, honestly, a deep pile of shit for the 76ers. There's no easy way out of it, but no, I'm not trying to. I don't want Al Horford or Tobias.
Yeah, same. I'm good. I saw someone on Twitter today. It was like a Al Horford and some picks or something coming back to the Grizz, and yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, 2 first round
those
picks,
guys.
Al Horford.
Those guys they might be good locker room guys now, but they're not going to be in Memphis. I can tell you that. Al Horford especially. So anyway, back to Clippers Mavs. I got Mavs in 7.
Shit.
And that's just because I'm riding the high of Luka.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It'd be cool. I mean, it'd be that would even expedite him even further. I just don't want the Mavs to fucking win because we have to play him. I don't want them to get like a playoff win under their belt and confidence. And then once you got a young player that good, confident, I'm looking out for us, like more so the self-preservation, Yeah,
I mean, we are going to have to hate this team really soon, hopefully. Hopefully we'll be in playoff battles with them. But maybe this expedite Luka and KP, having a falling out and them breaking that up or something. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Anything else on the playoffs?
That's all I got.
So second round will start towards the end of next week for most of the series, I assume. And we'll be back to discuss it next Sunday. You have been listening to the Backdoor Cut Show on Nothing But Net. Peace.